The silver inspection ship moved slowly toward the human research station floating in Jupiter's orbit. Inside the ship, Ambassador Veltar checked his safety equipment for the third time. His blue skin had turned a lighter shade with worry. The other members of his inspection team were just as nervous. "Remember everyone," Veltar said in his calm voice. "We are here to make sure the humans follow proper galactic safety rules. This is their first time joining our space community. They probably do not know our ways yet." The ship's computer made a soft beeping sound. "Approaching human station. Docking request sent," it announced. Through the viewing window, Veltar could see the human station. It looked different from other stations he had visited. The metal walls seemed thinner. There were fewer backup systems visible on the outside. Most strange of all, he could see bright sparks flying near one of the outer walls. "What are those lights?" asked Inspector Kethra, pointing at the sparks. "I do not know," Veltar replied. "Perhaps some kind of emergency repair system." The docking process went smoothly. As the airlock opened, Veltar expected to see humans wearing full protective suits. Instead, a tall man with short brown hair walked toward them, wearing only a simple work uniform. His name tag read Commander Jake Mitchell. "Welcome to Research Station Zeus," Jake said with a friendly smile. "Hope you had a good trip out here." Veltar looked around quickly. Where were the safety barriers? Where were the protective shields? Where were the warning signs? The human station looked almost naked compared to other facilities he knew. "Commander Mitchell," Veltar began carefully, "we noticed some unusual activity outside your station. There appeared to be some kind of electrical discharge near your outer hull." Jake laughed. "Oh, that. That was just me fixing a small hole in the hull plating. Had to weld a patch over it. No big deal." The alien inspection team looked at each other with wide eyes. Veltar felt his heart beating faster. "You were performing hull repairs while the station was occupied, with minimal protective equipment?" "Sure," Jake said, looking confused by their reaction. "It was just a small job. Took about 20 minutes. "Why do you ask?" Veltar tried to stay calm. In his 40 years of safety inspections, he had never heard of anyone doing hull repairs on an active station without at least 3 backup safety systems and a full evacuation of nearby sections. "Perhaps we should begin our inspection tour," Veltar suggested. Jake nodded and led them down a corridor. The walls were clean but simple. There were no emergency shields ready to drop down. No backup life support systems visible. No safety barriers protecting important equipment. They stopped at a large window looking into a laboratory. Inside, a woman with red hair was working with some kind of equipment. She wore normal clothes and simple rubber gloves. On the table in front of her sat several containers with warning symbols on them. "That is Dr. Lisa Parker," Jake explained. "She runs our science department. One of the smartest people I know." As they watched, Dr. Parker picked up one of the containers marked with a radiation warning symbol. She carried it across the room and placed it into a machine. Then she pressed some buttons and waited. Inspector Kethra made a choking sound. "She is handling radioactive materials, with only basic hand protection. Those gloves are lead-lined," Jake said. "They work fine for what she is doing. But where is her full-body protection suit? Where is her breathing apparatus? Where are the robotic handling arms?" Veltar asked. Jake looked even more confused. Why would she need all that stuff? The radiation levels are not that high. The gloves give her enough protection. Dr. Parker noticed them watching and waved. Then she walked over and opened the laboratory door. She was still wearing the same simple gloves she had been using with the radioactive materials. "You must be our visitors from the Galactic Safety Council," she said with a warm smile. "Welcome to our little research station." Veltar tried not to stare at her gloves. "Dr. Parker, we could not help but notice your laboratory procedures. Are you aware that galactic safety protocols require full environmental protection when handling radioactive substances?" Dr. Parker tilted her head. "Really? We have been handling this stuff for years without any problems. These materials are not that dangerous if you know what you are doing." "Not that dangerous," repeated Inspector Kethra weakly. "The radiation levels are well within human tolerance limits," Dr. Parker continued. "We do regular health checks and everyone stays healthy. No problems at all." Veltar felt dizzy. What did she mean by human tolerance limits? His own species would need full protection suits to even enter a room where such materials had been used hours earlier. "Perhaps we should continue our tour," Jake suggested. They walked through more of the station. Everything they saw made the inspection team more worried. Humans working with high-voltage electrical systems using only rubber gloves. Maintenance workers climbing through narrow spaces without safety harnesses. People handling chemical substances with minimal protection. In the engine room, they met Tom Bradley, the chief engineer. He was checking readings on the fusion reactor control panel. The reactor was running at full power. Tom wore regular work clothes and had no protective equipment at all. "Nice to meet you," Tom said, shaking hands with each alien visitor. "Sorry about the noise in here. The reactor is running a bit louder than usual today." Veltar could hardly speak. "You work directly next to an active fusion reactor, without protective shielding. The shielding is built into the reactor housing," Tom explained. "Plus we monitor radiation levels constantly. Everything stays within safe limits." "Safe limits for whom?" Veltar whispered to Inspector Kethra. As they finished the first part of their tour, Veltar began to understand something important. The humans were not ignoring safety rules because they did not know better. They were not being careless or stupid. They seemed to have their own ideas about what was safe and what was dangerous. But their ideas were completely different from everything the Galactic Safety Council had learned from other species. Either the humans were the most reckless beings in the galaxy, or something else was going on. Veltar decided he needed to learn much more about these strange creatures from Earth before he could write his safety report. The next morning, Tom Bradley met the alien inspection team at the entrance to the reactor section. He carried a simple toolkit and wore his usual work clothes. The aliens had spent the night in their ship, trying to understand what they had seen on their first day. "Ready to see how we keep this place running?" Tom asked with a cheerful smile. Veltar noticed that Tom carried no radiation detector, no protective suit, no emergency breathing equipment, just basic tools and a confident attitude. "Mr. Bradley," Veltar began carefully, "before we enter the reactor area, should we not put on protective equipment?" Tom looked puzzled. "What kind of protective equipment?" "Radiation suits, breathing apparatus, emergency evacuation devices," Inspector Kethra listed. "Oh, we do not need all that stuff," Tom said. "The reactor is well shielded. Come on, I will show you." He opened a heavy door and walked inside. The aliens followed slowly, their portable safety scanners beeping warnings about radiation levels. Tom seemed to ignore all the beeping sounds. The reactor core was huge. It hummed with power and glowed with a soft blue light. Tom walked right up to the main control panel and began checking readings. The aliens stayed near the door, their scanners now beeping very fast. "See, everything looks good," Tom said. "We did maintenance on the primary cooling system yesterday. Had to replace some worn parts inside the reactor housing." Veltar felt faint. "You performed maintenance inside the reactor housing while the reactor was operational?" "Sure," Tom replied. "We shut down the main reaction for about 2 hours. The core stays hot for a while, but the radiation drops to safe levels pretty quickly." "Easy work." "Safe levels," whispered Inspector Kethra, looking at her scanner. "My equipment says the radiation here would kill most species in less than 1 hour." Tom walked over and looked at her scanner. "Huh, that is interesting. What species is that based on?" "Standard galactic measurements," Veltar explained. "These levels represent safe exposure limits for all known spacefaring races." "Well, humans can handle a lot more radiation than most species," Tom said. "We evolved on Earth. Pretty harsh place compared to most planets." This was the first time anyone had mentioned Earth's conditions. Veltar made a mental note to research this later. They left the reactor room and went to Dr. Parker's main laboratory. She was working with several containers of different chemicals. Some were steaming. Others had warning labels in bright colors. She mixed them together using only basic lab equipment. "Good morning, everyone," Dr. Parker said. "I am just finishing up some tests on these new compounds we discovered near Europa." She held up a test tube filled with a bright green liquid. It bubbled and gave off a strong smell. She brought it close to her face and sniffed it. The aliens jumped backward. Their emergency alarm started ringing. "Dr. Parker," Veltar shouted, "that substance may be toxic." "Oh, it definitely is toxic," she replied calmly. "Very poisonous, actually. But the smell tells me a lot about its chemical structure. Humans have pretty good noses for detecting dangerous compounds." She set the test tube down and made some notes. "This stuff would probably kill most life forms in small amounts. But I am being careful. I know what I am doing." Inspector Kethra was checking her readings again. The air in this room contains at least 12 different compounds that are lethal to my species. Really? Dr. Parker said with interest. What planet are you from? Velcara Prime, Kethra replied. It is a very stable world. No dangerous weather. No toxic plants. Very safe environment. Dr. Parker nodded. That explains a lot. Earth is quite different. We have poisonous animals, toxic plants, dangerous weather, earthquakes, volcanoes, and lots of radiation from our sun. Humans had to become tough to survive. She walked over to another table where she began working with a machine that produced high-pressure steam. She adjusted the settings without any protective gear while hot steam shot out near her hands. On Earth, she continued while working, children learn to identify dangerous plants and animals before they can walk properly. We grow up knowing how to handle risk. It becomes natural. Veltar was beginning to understand. So humans developed natural resistance to dangers that would kill other species. Exactly, Dr. Parker said. Plus, we learn to assess risks quickly. When you live on a world where everything is trying to kill you, you either adapt fast or you do not survive. Tom rejoined their group. Dr. Parker is right. My grandfather used to work in the old nuclear plants on Earth. He always said that too much safety equipment could make you careless. Better to stay alert and trust your instincts. They spent the rest of the morning watching humans work. Maintenance crews climbed through narrow spaces without safety lines. Technicians repaired electrical systems while the power stayed on. Scientists handled dangerous materials with confidence and skill. Each time the aliens pointed out a safety concern, the humans had a reasonable explanation. They were not being reckless. They were using safety methods designed for their species and their abilities. Let me show you something, Dr. Parker said. She pulled up information about Earth on her computer screen. The aliens looked at pictures of Earth's surface, massive storms that could destroy cities, volcanoes that could change the climate, earthquakes that could split the ground open, animals with teeth and claws that could tear apart metal, plants that could kill with a single touch. This is your home world, Veltar said quietly. Beautiful place, Tom said with pride. Dangerous, but beautiful. How do you survive on such a world? Inspector Kethra asked. You adapt, Dr. Parker replied. You become stronger. You learn fast. You develop good instincts. And you never stop being alert. Veltar understood now. The humans were not ignoring safety rules. They had developed their own safety rules based on millions of years of surviving on one of the most dangerous planets anyone had ever seen. Their safety equipment was not inadequate. It was perfectly designed for beings who were already equipped with natural defenses that other species did not have. The real question was not whether human safety procedures were good enough. The question was whether galactic safety standards made any sense when applied to a species that had evolved to be living weapons against danger itself. The third day of inspection started quietly. Veltar and his team were reviewing their notes from the previous days when the station's alarm system began making loud warning sounds. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Meteor impact detected in Section C, announced the computer voice. Hull breach confirmed. Pressure dropping rapidly. The aliens immediately began their emergency procedures. They put on protective suits and started moving toward their ship's emergency shelter. This was standard protocol for all spacefaring species when facing hull breach emergencies. But the humans did something completely different. Commander Jake Mitchell ran past them toward Section C, not away from it. He wore no protective suit. He carried only basic repair tools and moved with purpose and speed. Commander Mitchell, Veltar called out, you are going the wrong direction. The emergency shelter is this way. Jake stopped and looked back. Emergency shelter. We have work to do. Mike and his team are probably already sealing that breach. More humans ran past them toward the damaged section. Dr. Parker jogged by carrying emergency medical supplies. Tom Bradley rushed past with welding equipment. None of them wore protective suits. They are all running toward the danger, Inspector Kethra said in amazement. Of course they are, Jake replied. That is where the problem is. The aliens followed slowly, their emergency training telling them to move away from hull breaches, not toward them. When they reached Section C, they found organized chaos. Mike Rodriguez, the maintenance chief, was already inside the damaged area. Air was rushing out through a hole in the hull about 2 meters wide. Mike had attached a safety line to his belt but otherwise wore only his normal work clothes. Tom, I need a patch plate here, Mike shouted over the sound of escaping air. Kelly, can you shut down power to this section so I can weld? Kelly Thompson worked at a control panel near the breach. The escaping air whipped her hair around, but she calmly typed commands into the computer. The lights in the section went dark except for emergency lighting. Tom Bradley set up his welding equipment right next to the hull breach. Sparks flew as he cut a metal patch to fit the hole. The aliens watched in horror as he worked with dangerous equipment while air rushed past him into space. "This is madness," whispered Inspector Kethra. "They should evacuate the entire section and use robotic repair systems." "How long would that take?" Jake asked. "Standard procedure requires 6 hours minimum," Veltar replied. "First evacuation, then deployment of repair robots, then safety checks, then actual repairs. We will have this fixed in 20 minutes, Mike called out from inside the breach area. And they did. Mike positioned the metal patch over the hole while Tom welded it in place. Kelly restored power and checked all systems. Dr. Parker examined everyone for injuries and found none. The entire repair took 18 minutes. But the emergency was not over yet. The meteor impact had damaged other systems. 3 crew members were trapped in a storage room when the airlock controls failed. The door would not open and air was running low in that section. The aliens began calculating rescue procedures. Standard galactic protocol required cutting through the walls using careful, slow methods to avoid further damage. The process would take at least 4 hours. Tom Bradley looked at the damaged airlock and made a different decision. "I am going to cycle through manually," he announced. "Tom, that is dangerous," Dr. Parker warned. "The controls are damaged. You could get trapped in there." "Someone has to get them out," Tom replied. "I know these systems better than anyone." He opened the outer airlock door and stepped inside. The aliens watched their scanners as the inner door tried to close but jammed halfway. Tom squeezed through the narrow opening and disappeared. "He just trapped himself in a malfunctioning airlock," Veltar said. "Tom knows what he is doing," Jake replied, but Veltar could hear worry in his voice. For 10 minutes, they heard banging and grinding sounds from inside the airlock. Then the inner door suddenly opened. Tom emerged with all 3 trapped crew members. He was dirty and had a small cut on his hand, but everyone was safe. "How did you do that?" Inspector Kethra asked. "The main control circuit was fried," Tom explained while Dr. Parker cleaned his cut. "But there is a manual override system. You just have to know where to find it and how to use it." "What if the manual system had failed?" Veltar asked. "Then I would have found another way," Tom said simply. Kelly Thompson had been monitoring communications during the emergency. She approached the group carrying several data tablets and looking completely calm. "We also had a power fluctuation in the life support systems," she reported, "and the navigation computers went offline for 12 minutes. And there was a small fire in Storage Bay 7. Everything is fixed now." The aliens stared at her. During the hull breach emergency, she had somehow managed multiple other crisis situations at the same time. "You handled 5 different emergencies simultaneously," Veltar said. 6, actually, Kelly corrected. "The coffee machine in the break room stopped working too." "Got that fixed as well," Dr. Parker laughed. Kelly has always been good at multitasking. As the aliens returned to their quarters that evening, they tried to process what they had witnessed. The humans had faced a life-threatening emergency and treated it like a normal workday. They ran toward danger instead of away from it. They improvised solutions instead of following lengthy procedures. They took personal risks to save others without hesitation. Their emergency response protocols are completely backwards, Inspector Kethra said. "No," Veltar replied thoughtfully. "I think their emergency response protocols are completely different, and maybe completely better." He was beginning to understand that humans did not just survive emergencies, they attacked them. The 4th day began with more repairs. The meteor impact had damaged several external sensor arrays, and someone needed to go outside the station to fix them. The aliens assumed this would require a full spacewalk team with backup safety systems and extensive preparation time. Instead, Security Chief Robert Davis simply put on a basic EVA suit and gathered some tools. "I should have those sensors working again in about an hour," Robert told Commander Mitchell. Veltar watched through the observation window as Robert moved along the station's outer hull. He used only a standard safety tether, no backup systems, no emergency rescue team standing by, no robotic assistance. "Does he not need additional safety equipment?" Veltar asked Jake. "Like what?" Jake replied. backup air supplies, secondary tether lines, emergency propulsion units, robotic escorts, Inspector Kethra listed. Robert has been doing spacewalks for 15 years, Jake said. He knows what he is doing. All that extra equipment would just slow him down. They watched Robert work. He moved with confidence and efficiency, reaching damaged sensors that would have been difficult for a robot to access. When his primary tool broke, he improvised a replacement using parts from his belt kit. What if his tether breaks? Veltar asked. It will not break, Jake said confidently. But what if it does? Jake thought for a moment. Then Robert would use his suit thrusters to get back to the station. If those failed, he would throw his tools in the opposite direction to push himself back. Robert is smart. He would figure something out. This was a completely different approach to safety than anything in galactic protocols. Instead of preventing all possible failures, the humans seemed to trust in their ability to handle failures when they happened. Later that morning, Dr. Parker began setting up a new experiment. She was testing the effects of high-energy particle beams on various materials. The experiment required dangerous levels of radiation and electromagnetic energy. Dr. Parker, Veltar, said, should you not wait until all station repairs are complete before beginning such a hazardous experiment? Why? She asked, genuinely curious. Standard safety protocols require optimal conditions before conducting dangerous experiments. The station has been damaged. Some systems are not operating at full capacity. Dr. Parker nodded. That is exactly why I need to run this experiment now. The aliens looked confused. We need to know how these materials behave under stress conditions, she explained. Testing them when everything is perfect will not tell us what we need to know. Real situations are never perfect. She activated the particle beam array. Energy readings spiked on all the monitoring equipment. The alien safety scanners began making urgent warning sounds. The radiation levels are approaching dangerous limits, Inspector Kethra reported. I know, Dr. Parker replied calmly. That is the point. I need to see what happens when we push these materials to their breaking point. What if something goes wrong? Veltar asked. Then I will learn something important, Dr. Parker said. The best way to understand how things fail is to watch them fail. She continued the experiment, carefully monitoring all readings. When one of her test samples began to overheat, she made quick adjustments to prevent damage. When another sample started to emit unexpected radiation, she adapted her procedures on the spot. You are making decisions in real time, Veltar observed. Of course, Dr. Parker replied. No experiment ever goes exactly as planned. You have to be ready to adapt. This was another key difference. Galactic safety protocols tried to plan for every possible situation in advance. Human safety protocols seemed to focus on developing the ability to handle unexpected situations as they arose. That afternoon, Veltar had a long conversation with Commander Mitchell about human safety philosophy. Your people seem to prefer taking calculated risks rather than avoiding all risks, Veltar said. That is right, Jake agreed. Complete safety is impossible. Trying to achieve it usually makes you less safe, not more safe. How can safety measures make you less safe? Jake thought for a moment. If you wear too much protective equipment, you cannot move quickly when you need to. If you have too many backup systems, you start to depend on them instead of your own skills. If you plan for every possible problem, you cannot adapt when something unexpected happens. So you prefer to rely on human abilities rather than protective systems. We use both, Jake corrected. But we design our safety systems to enhance human abilities, not replace them. A tool should make you more capable, not less capable. Can you give me an example? Jake pointed to Robert, who was just returning from his spacewalk. Robert could have worn a full robotic exoskeleton for that repair job. It would have been completely safe. But the exoskeleton is big and clumsy. Robert could not have reached some of those damaged sensors. The safe equipment would have made the mission impossible. Veltar was beginning to understand. So you choose the level of safety equipment that allows you to complete the mission successfully. Exactly. Safety is not about avoiding all danger. Safety is about managing danger effectively. That evening, Dr. Parker showed the aliens some historical records from Earth. They watched videos of humans doing jobs that seemed impossible by galactic standards. Construction workers building skyscrapers while walking on narrow beams hundreds of meters above the ground. Deep-sea divers working in crushing depths that would destroy most equipment. Rescue teams running into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. These people are not being reckless, Dr. Parker explained. They are being professional. They have trained their whole lives to work safely in dangerous conditions. But surely some of them get hurt, Inspector Kethra said. Some do, Dr. Parker agreed. But far fewer than you might think. When you train people to handle danger instead of avoiding it, they become very good at staying safe. This is the opposite of everything we have learned about safety, Veltar said. Maybe, Jake replied. Your species learned about safety on worlds that were not trying to kill you every day. We learned about safety on Earth. Different lessons for different situations. Veltar spent most of that night thinking about what he had learned. The humans were not ignoring safety. They had developed a completely different definition of safety. For them, safety meant being prepared to handle danger, not being protected from danger. It was a philosophy that made sense for a species that had survived millions of years on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. On the 5th day, the station's emergency alarms sounded again. This time the danger came from space itself. A massive solar flare was heading toward Jupiter. The radiation storm would hit the station in less than 6 hours. Veltar immediately began standard galactic emergency procedures. All personnel must move to the central protection chamber, he announced. All non-essential systems must be shut down. We must wait for the radiation storm to pass. But the humans had other plans. Shutting down the station would actually make things worse, Commander Mitchell explained during an emergency meeting. Our shields work better when we have full power. And we need the sensor arrays active to track the storm's intensity. You want to keep the station running during a radiation storm? Inspector Kethra asked in disbelief. Not just running, Dr. Parker added. We want to use the storm's energy to power some experiments. This is a perfect opportunity to test our new energy collection systems. The aliens could not believe what they were hearing. Instead of hiding from the solar storm, the humans wanted to work with it. The radiation levels will be lethal, Veltar warned. For your species, yes, Tom Bradley agreed. But humans can handle a lot more radiation. Plus, we have procedures for working during solar events. Captain Daniel Turner, the station's shuttle pilot, joined the meeting. I need to go outside during the storm, he announced. Some of our external sensors were damaged in yesterday's meteor strike. If they fail during the storm, we will lose all our data. The aliens stared at him. You want to fly a shuttle into a solar radiation storm? Sure, Daniel replied. I have done it before. Tricky flying, but not impossible. It is suicide, Veltar protested. No, it is flying, Daniel corrected. You just have to know what you are doing. Over the next few hours, Veltar watched the humans prepare for the solar storm. Instead of shutting down systems, they activated additional shielding. Instead of hiding, they positioned themselves at key stations throughout the facility. Instead of waiting passively, they prepared to actively manage the crisis. Dr. Parker set up her energy collection experiment in the main laboratory. If this works, she explained, we can capture enough energy from the solar storm to power the station for weeks. What if it does not work? Inspector Kethra asked. Then we will learn why it did not work, Dr. Parker replied. Either way, we gain valuable knowledge. Tom Bradley checked and double-checked all the station systems. The trick is to balance power loads during the storm, he told the aliens. Too much power and we overload. Too little power and our shields fail. You have to make constant adjustments. That sounds very complicated, Veltar said. It is, Tom agreed. That is why we need humans doing it instead of computers. Computers follow programs. Humans can adapt to changing conditions. As the solar storm approached, Captain Turner prepared for his shuttle mission. He wore a standard pilot suit with extra radiation shielding, but nothing like the full protection system's galactic protocols would require. Daniel, Commander Mitchell said, you do not have to do this. We can manage without those sensor readings. Those sensors will give us data about solar storm behavior that no one has ever collected before. Daniel replied, this is too good an opportunity to miss. He launched his shuttle just as the leading edge of the solar storm reached the station. The aliens watched from the command center as he flew directly into the radiation field. His communication signal is getting weak, Kelly Thompson reported from her communication station. That is normal during solar events, Jake explained. The radiation interferes with radio signals. For 20 minutes, they lost contact with Daniel completely. The aliens were certain he was dead, but then his voice came through the static. Control, this is Turner. Sensors are repaired and working perfectly. The view out here is amazing. You should see these energy patterns. Get back here before the storm gets worse, Jake ordered, already on my way. These radiation readings are incredible. Dr. Parker is going to love this data. Daniel's shuttle appeared on their screens, flying through streams of solar radiation that lit up the space around the station like colored fire. He landed safely just as the storm reached its peak intensity. Meanwhile, Dr. Parker's energy collection experiment was working perfectly. Her equipment gathered solar storm energy and converted it into usable power. The station's power levels actually increased during the storm. This is remarkable, Veltar said, watching the energy readings climb. You are not just surviving the solar storm, you are benefiting from it. That is the idea, Dr. Parker replied while adjusting her equipment settings. Every dangerous situation has opportunities if you know how to look for them. Tom Bradley spent the storm's peak hours constantly adjusting power systems throughout the station. He moved from station to station, making small changes to keep everything balanced. When one power grid overloaded, he quickly rerouted energy through backup systems. When radiation levels spiked in one section, he increased shielding power to that area. You are managing dozens of systems simultaneously, Inspector Kethra observed. You have to during a solar storm, Tom explained while typing commands into a control panel. Everything changes every few minutes. No computer program can keep up with all the variables. The aliens watched in amazement as the human crew worked together during the crisis. Each person handled multiple responsibilities. They communicated constantly but efficiently. They made quick decisions based on changing conditions. Most importantly, they treated the dangerous solar storm as an opportunity for discovery and improvement, not just as a threat to be endured. Your people work well together during emergencies, Veltar commented to Commander Mitchell. We have to, Jake replied. On Earth, people who could not work together during crises did not survive long enough to have children. Cooperation under pressure is built into human nature, but you also encourage individual initiative. Captain Turner made his own decision to risk the shuttle mission. Good teamwork requires both things, Jake explained. People need to work together, but they also need to think for themselves. Sometimes the best decision is the one nobody planned for. When the solar storm finally passed, the station was in better condition than when it started. They had full power reserves. They had valuable scientific data. They had tested and improved their energy systems, and everyone was safe. You turned a crisis into an advantage, Veltar said with genuine admiration. That is what humans do, Dr. Parker replied with a smile. We have been doing it for millions of years. On the final day of inspection, Ambassador Veltar sat in his ship's communication room staring at a blank report screen. He had spent 5 days watching humans work, and everything he had seen challenged the basic principles of galactic safety protocols. Inspector Kethra joined him. What will you write in the report, she asked. I do not know, Veltar admitted. If I report that the humans are violating safety standards, the Galactic Council will shut down their space operations. But if I approve their methods, I will be going against thousands of years of established safety science. Maybe the established safety science is wrong, Kethra suggested. Veltar looked at her in surprise. You think the humans are right? I think the humans are different, she replied. And maybe their differences make them better at handling danger than we are. Before Veltar could respond, Commander Mitchell contacted their ship. Ambassador, could you join us in the conference room? We want to show you something. When the aliens arrived, they found the entire human crew gathered around a large display screen. Dr. Parker had prepared a presentation comparing human safety methods with standard galactic protocols. We know our approaches seem strange to you, Dr. Parker began, so we wanted to explain why we do things differently. The first slide showed accident statistics. Humans working in dangerous environments have fewer accidents per hour of work than most galactic species working in safe environments, Dr. Parker explained. How is that possible? Inspector Kethra asked. Training and adaptation, Tom Bradley answered. When you know you are in danger, you pay attention. When you think you are completely safe, you get careless. The next slide showed response times during emergencies. Human crews can respond to crises in minutes, Dr. Parker continued. Standard galactic protocols require hours. But your methods have higher risk, Veltar protested. Actually, they do not, Commander Mitchell said. Our methods have different risks. We accept higher immediate risk to reduce long-term danger. Captain Turner stepped forward. During the solar storm, galactic protocols would have required us to shut down the station and wait. But solar storms can last for days. Being trapped in a shelter for that long creates different dangers. People get sick. Equipment fails. Supplies run low. So you chose to stay active and manage the storm instead of hiding from it, Veltar said. Right, Turner replied. Active management is usually safer than passive waiting. Dr. Parker showed more data comparing different approaches to space safety. In every category, human methods produced better results than standard galactic protocols. The key difference, she explained, is that galactic safety focuses on preventing exposure to danger. Human safety focuses on developing the ability to handle danger effectively. Both approaches work, Tom added, but they work for different kinds of beings. Species that evolved on safe worlds need protection from danger. Species that evolved on dangerous worlds need tools to manage danger. Robert Davis, who had been quiet during the presentation, finally spoke up. The real problem comes when you try to apply the wrong safety system to the wrong species. What do you mean? Veltar asked. If you force humans to use galactic safety protocols, you make us less safe, Robert explained. All that protective equipment slows us down and makes us depend on machines instead of our instincts. It is like putting training wheels on a racing bicycle. And if other species tried to use human safety protocols, Kelly Thompson added, they would be in serious danger. Our methods only work because of our natural abilities. Commander Mitchell brought up the final slide. We are not asking you to change galactic safety standards, he said. We are asking you to create additional standards for species like humans. Deathworld species, Dr. Parker clarified. Beings that evolved on planets with extreme dangers and developed natural resistance to those dangers. You want separate safety categories? Veltar said thoughtfully. We want appropriate safety categories, Jake corrected. Safety rules should match the abilities of the species using them. Veltar spent several hours thinking about what the humans had shown him. Their data was convincing. Their logic was sound. And their results spoke for themselves. That evening, he began writing his report to the Galactic Safety Council. After extensive observation and analysis, he wrote, I recommend the creation of new safety protocols for Deathworld species. Current galactic standards, while appropriate for most spacefaring races, are inadequate for beings that have evolved enhanced resistance to environmental dangers. He went on to describe everything he had witnessed. The humans working safely in conditions that would kill other species, their rapid response to emergencies, their ability to turn crises into opportunities. Human safety methods are not reckless, he concluded. They are optimized for a species with capabilities that exceed galactic norms. Forcing such beings to follow standard protocols actually increases danger rather than reducing it. 3 months later, Veltar received a response from the Galactic Safety Council. His recommendations had been approved. New adaptive safety protocols were being developed for species with enhanced environmental resistance. The Council had also requested that a human safety expert be assigned to help develop these new standards. Dr. Parker had volunteered for the position. 6 months after that, Veltar returned to Research Station Zeus for a follow-up inspection. The station had expanded significantly. Human crews were now training safety officers from other Deathworld species that had recently joined the galactic community. How are the new protocols working? Veltar asked Commander Mitchell. Very well, Jake replied. We have had 3 other Deathworld species adopt modified versions of our safety methods. Accident rates are down across the board. And how do other galactic species feel about the changes? Most of them are relieved, Dr. Parker said, joining their conversation. They were always worried about working with humans because our methods seemed so dangerous. Now they understand that we are actually safer than they thought. Some species have even started adopting certain human techniques, Tom Bradley added, not the dangerous stuff, but our approaches to emergency response and crisis management. You have started a revolution in galactic safety thinking, Veltar observed. Not a revolution, Commander Mitchell corrected. An evolution. We just helped everyone understand that safety is not about avoiding all risks. Safety is about managing risks effectively based on your abilities. As Veltar prepared to leave the station, he reflected on how much had changed. The humans were no longer seen as reckless danger seekers. Instead, they were recognized as natural experts in risk management. Other species had stopped trying to impose inappropriate safety measures on Deathworld beings. And Deathworld species had stopped feeling like they had to choose between following galactic protocols and staying alive. Most importantly, the galaxy had learned that there was more than one way to be safe. Sometimes the best protection was not a shield or a shelter. Sometimes the best protection was the courage and skill to face danger directly and overcome it. The humans had taught everyone that safety was not about being afraid of the universe. Safety was about being ready for whatever the universe might throw at you. And on a station orbiting Jupiter, human crews continued their work, turning the deadly vacuum of space into just another day at the office.